everybody. Welcome to our Fit for Success podcast. My name is Kristen Nolan, and I'm a health expert and speaker for busy professional women and men. And today I'm interviewing Donna Ceriani, who is a leadership success coach. I'm going to tell you that today's interview is absolutely for you if you're an executive, but you have a really hard time scheduling your meals, scheduling time to take care of yourself, and you know that it's really important because you need to show up as a calm and confident and reliable leader, but inside you kind of feel like a mess because you are not taking care of yourself. This interview is absolutely for you. With a reputation of helping people realize their highest potential, Donna Ceriani is the coach leaders reach out to when they want to increase their impact and advance their career. As the founder of Success Compass, Donna works with leaders in technology who are facing a continuous stream of change, choices, and opportunities. They want to be inspiring leaders and get great results with their team, but they aren't sure what their best next move should be. They're working hard, they're putting in the time, doing what they should be doing, but not getting the results they want. Donna is passionate about applying the lessons from her adventures around the globe to helping her clients approach their own challenges with an explorer's mindset. So Donna, welcome to our show. I'm so excited to have you on Fit for Success podcast today.
Thanks, Kristen. Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you about this.
This is awesome. And Donna just got back from, what was it, 5 weeks of skiing in Tahoe and Colorado. Is that right?
Snowboarding, yeah.
Snowboarding. I'm so sorry. I meant snowboarding.
That's okay.
God.
It's not an insult. Don't worry.
Oh, man. Gosh, Donna, well, tell us this. How do you work with executives to help them plot a unique roadmap so that they can increase their leadership success?
Yeah, so what I typically do, now I work with both organizations and individuals. So when I'm working with an organization, I might be working with the CEO, the head of HR, the CFO, and we usually will look at company culture, employee engagement, leadership development. But for today, I'll focus mainly on the coaching aspect. So if I'm working with an individual leader, we always start off with what are their specific goals. Most leaders that I work with, they're ambitious, they want to get to the next level, they really want to stretch themselves. And as you said in the intro, they're not quite sure what to do differently. Now, most of my coaching is virtual, it's over the phone, but typically what we'll do is we'll set, based on their goals, what are we going to do over the next, 3 to 6, 9 months, however long we're going to work together. And part of what you and I are talking about today is the foundation, like for them to achieve their goals. What are the things they need to be self-aware about? So for example, 3 out of 4 people, and you've probably heard me say this before, 3 out of 4 people dread going to work. Only a third of people really know what their strengths are. Most people don't have a written vision for themselves, don't really know their personal brand, and on and on. So I usually start with helping somebody create that foundation. What are they good at? Where can they put their effort to get their best results? What are their passions, their values? What's their personal brand? How do they put these pieces together so they get their best results? Instead of just working harder, right? They want to work smarter to really accomplish, their vision for themselves. So with coaching, it really depends on the individual and what they're trying to, how they want to be seen and what their next step might be. Is it a promotion? Is it a new job? Is it a new group they're taking over, right? So it really runs the gamut.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, tell me this, Donna, how does health play into the results that you see your executives achieving? Have you noticed any distinguishing factors between the ones? Yeah. So I'd love to hear about it.
In fact, I was so glad to talk to you today because I don't always address this head on. So here's a couple of examples of where I see health having a huge impact on how that leader shows up. So there's a couple of things I want to really key in on. One is stress tolerance. As a leader, the more you're aspiring to advance through the corporate, up the corporate ladder, people need to see you as somebody who can manage priorities, make good choices, set the tone for the entire organization. That starts with you. So the leader has to be able to demonstrate that they know how to stay calm under pressure. They know how to manage their own stress. Because let's look at what happens if they don't manage their own stress level. Those emotions start spilling out in unexpected ways. Anger, frustration, impatience, being reactive, right? They might get, angry or frustrated more easily, and people around them, it's contagious, right?
It is. Yeah.
It affects everybody. So now that person may not be seen as somebody who is as strategic as they want to be seen because they're not managing their own stress very well.
Ooh, that's a
And
big
everybody
one.
can see it. So that's number one. So when you think about stress tolerance, that's actually a skill. It means having coping strategies of how you're going to position yourself, because everybody's going to have stress. I deal mostly with technology organizations and technology leaders in many different industries, but fast-paced, constant change, of course there's going to be stress. The key is, what are your strategies for coping with it?
Absolutely.
So when it comes to health, think about it, right? And I've learned a lot from you, but sleeping well, eating healthy, getting exercise, getting out in nature, all of these things can help combat that stressful situation.
Totally.
Right.
And you know what? I love that you're bringing this up because I've found that when people are not paying attention to their health, they're really all up in their head
Right.
and not at all
Right.
grounded, right, in their
Right.
body and who they are.
Right.
And this is a huge, huge
Right.
detriment
Right.
to their ability to absorb stress and use it for good.
Right. And now I won't dwell on this too much, but by thinking about this interview today, it did bring back to mind more examples than I care to admit of how many people I know who've had strokes, heart attacks, and some really serious health consequences on the job. We hear it every day. Stress is a killer. Now, so that's number one, is how I see it play out is in that, we all need to have a lot of self-care to be able to manage stress. The second way I see it play out is that, again, with an individual having a healthy lifestyle, having time for joy, whether it's snowboarding or dancing or whatever they love to do, that shows that you know how to manage your priorities. And part of being strategic is, how are you planning out your week and your lifestyle so that you're going to address all the areas of your life. You're not lopsided where it's all work and no play, right? So that's showing you can manage your priorities. The third way I see it play out is, if you're not showing up, getting back to what you were saying, Kristen, about performance, if you're not showing up healthy, energized, refreshed, rejuvenated, creative energy, physical energy, mental clarity, all those ways that if you're not healthy, it impacts how you're able to do your best work, right? Because you're not thinking clearly, you can't make decisions, you're indecisive, maybe you're just not even as productive as you want to be. So the list goes on and on of how it can impact you. So now, thinking about my own sort of perfect formula through the years, neuroscience shows that your brain, it's like a battery that runs out through the day.
Yep.
So if you start off, and you've taught me a lot about eating like within an hour, right? Metabolism, eat within an hour of getting up. But if you eat healthy and exercise, then if you're trying to get your best results as a leader, those first few hours after you exercise, first thing in the morning, you're not only getting all that good energy from having exercise, but on top of it, your brain is fully recharged, like the battery that's at full power. So no matter however you look at it, you get your best results when you tackle the thing that is most complex, challenging, or requires the most creativity first thing in the morning. Right? So when you say, how do I see it show up? When I'm doing coaching or training, workshops, things like that, and I'm talking about performance, I will always mention this point and encourage all my clients, when you're trying to get your best results, take that presentation, that analysis, that report, that tough meeting with the client, whatever it is, first thing in the morning, because then you're setting yourself up for success for the rest of the day.
Oh, absolutely. You know what? And I love how you mentioned how exercise enhances brain function.
Right.
And the reason it does that is because the signals from exercise integrate in the back bottom part of your brain called the cerebellum. And with the brain's feeding pattern of being bottom to top and back to front, you get so much energy coming into the decision-making part of your brain when you move your body that it really helps you show up as strong, confident, and reliable, even if you're doing just, 10 minutes a day. Just starting with 10 minutes a day can be so powerful to help you show up. I love that you said that. And then the other thing I love how you mentioned was, really how you can be seen when you are showing up as stressed versus rested and rejuvenated, right? I know we interviewed another leadership success coach who Eleanor Beaton, a couple weeks ago, and she was talking about showing up on the rested edge versus the ragged edge, right? And how people lose trust in you. Like they literally lose trust in you if you keep showing up on the ragged edge, and you may think you're hiding it, but the people around you are smart, right? They can sense that energy. They know. Have you found that to be the case?
Yeah. And that's funny, Kristen, that you say that, because that absolutely was true for me. So really for most of my career, I've known these couple of key points. And so I would intentionally, if ever I was tempted to not exercise, I used to swim laps before work at the YMCA. And then I would, always go to a gym. If I wasn't swimming laps, I'd go to a gym, but always before work. And what motivated me to do that was that I knew that I was getting this kickstart to my day. And the minute I showed up in the office, I knew there were immediate benefits. Well, there was a time where I had tremendous responsibility, global teams, felt like I was working 7 by 24, really high pressure job. And I took my foot off the gas and I stopped doing these healthy things because I was kidding myself thinking, I don't have time. I'm too busy. Working crazy hours, traveling internationally. I always had jet lag for coming or going. Anyway, it was a mess. But here's what happened. My wake-up call was that I went on a trip to Asia for business, and I stopped in Maui for vacation on the way home. I spent the first 4 days in bed with an excruciating migraine. And I thought, how bad is this? Things have gotten so bad that I'm in Maui and I can't even get out of bed because I'm so sick with a migraine. So the minute I got back to Boston, I joined an Equinox, and I had personal training 5 days a week, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, strength training, Tuesdays and Thursdays, Pilates, and then the rest of the time with cardio, whatever. But anyway, 5 days a week. And a guy that worked for me, he might even listen to this, I don't know, but a guy that was working for me, a director, walked over to me after, some number of weeks. It was the new me. And he said, wow, I don't know what you're doing, but it's really working. You're just, on fire. I could see it. So
that's amazing.
I do think we kid ourselves sometimes thinking we don't have time. But then once you do it and you see the benefit, you realize you can't afford to not do it.
Right. That's exactly it. God, I'm really glad you just shared that story, because what a difference, right? To go from that overly stressed, run down, burnout Donna to ultra productive, the new you, and people actually notice, right? You didn't even tell them. That's amazing.
And now the key is for all of us, right, is to make it a habit no matter where you are in the world. So then right after that, my boss tried to transfer, he did transfer me to Singapore, and I had to travel to like 7 countries all the time. And I didn't want to go because I finally was in this great healthy place. I'm like, no, I don't want to give up my routine, but I had to take my routine with me. So no matter what business hotel I was in, the first thing I would do in the morning is go to the hotel gym. And that had to be part of my travel plan, right? Get up in the morning, go to the hotel gym, have a good breakfast. That routine has to follow you no matter wherever you go. It doesn't go on vacation. It doesn't get put on the shelf when you go on a business trip.
Oh yeah. No, that's absolutely right. And it's so funny you say that because one of the reasons I started coaching executives and entrepreneurs over Skype was because I realized, oh my God, they're traveling so much. And the funny thing is that they became more consistent once I started seeing them over Skype. Whereas before they would have missed,
Hmm.
2 to 3 sessions a month, which doesn't help either of us.
Right.
Now they're attending all their sessions, or if we have to reschedule one, it's just a little tweak and it's
Yeah.
really, really simple to get it back
Yep.
into the mix of things. So
Yeah. I love that. I love that you do
yeah,
that.
yeah. Well, it makes it easier on all of us. In talking about habits, Donna, what have you found have been your top techniques for establishing long-term habits? Because, one of the things that I hate and that drives me nuts is that people think that it takes 21 days only to build a habit, which might be true in some very minute
Hmm.
circumstances. But
Hmm.
what you're talking about is on another level. And what you're saying, and what I love that you're saying is, hey, this actually has to follow you. Your habit doesn't go on vacation. You know,
Right.
how have you found have been the best ways for you to instill healthy habits in your life?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, there's a couple of things that I've done. One is I think the most dramatic way that I do it is when I see the consequence of not following. Like I call it like my formula for my best results. I know when I have a whole series of things I do every morning.
Mhm.
I get up, I have tea instead of coffee because I gave caffeine, but do my morning pages. If I exercise in the morning, I eat right, etc. So I see the consequence when I don't follow that routine. I see the negative result of it. It shows
Mhm.
up that I didn't
Right.
quite get done as much as I wanted, didn't have the energy level, didn't feel as good, etc. So for me, it's been picking and choosing over years. I mean, with the example I gave you, when I started working out 5 days a week with a trainer, that was 10 years ago.
Mhm.
So some of the
Wow.
habits that I know when I follow them even today, I can trace them back to even 15 years ago. So none
Wow.
of this was me waking up and saying, I think I need to do this starting tomorrow. I've
Mhm.
I've really sort of been fine tuning my habits over many years, like we all do, right?
Yeah. So that's a really interesting point. I think so what you're saying is that, hey, I've got these established habits, but they've totally adjusted with me throughout the years.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think a lot of people feel like, oh, if I do this one thing, I'm going to be stuck in it. I have to do it this way every time. But
yeah.
that's not true, right?
No.
You're
Well, through the
right.
years, here's what does change. So for me, and some of this could be human nature, so you can let me know, but I know from trial and error that I am best exercising in the morning before I
Hmm.
do any work. If I start
Hmm.
working, then that willpower battery runs dry through the day, and
Sure.
chances are at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm not going to go to the gym. I'm not going to go for a walk. Actually, I'm in Florida right now, so I'd never go for a walk at 4 in the afternoon. It's too hot. But I know that I'm best exercising before the workday begins because now I'm
Hmm.
done. I've got it
Hmm.
under my belt. I'm not going to get busy, get wrapped up in a project, and then say, well, I'll wait till tomorrow. I know that
Hmm.
doesn't work for me. Some
Right.
people only like to go to work out after work. I can't
Hmm.
do that. I did it, tried to
Right.
do it in New York City. My health club was on my walk home. I lived in the financial district and I just kept on walking. I went right home. I'd leave the office at 7 o'clock at night. I'm like, I'm too tired. I'll try tomorrow. And I'd keep walking. So I never
Right.
would go. The end of the day, you're beat. I don't feel like it. Now, so
Yeah.
anyway, my point is, each of us knows what works for us.
Hmm.
And for me, it's got to be first thing in the morning.
Yeah. And so that's perfect. I'm glad that you know yourself well enough to understand that,
Hmm.
hey, if I do put this off,
Hmm.
it ain't
Hmm.
happening, you know?
Right, right.
Um, and
But
that's
the other thing as far as exercise, I think that when it comes to, because you had asked me before, you'd mentioned business travel. For people
mhm.
that travel frequently for business, I mean, one of the
Yep.
common complaints I hear is, not eating healthy when you're on the road, you're staying in hotels. That is one thing that I do differently today than I used to. I'd say for the
Hmm.
last couple of years, before I even book a trip, I'm thinking about where my clients are located, what hotels have kitchenettes. And I
Mm,
purposely, before I even book the trip, I look at what are the hotels in that area that have a kitchenette, and then how far away is the grocery store. So now I do spend a lot of time traveling, but I would say 80% of the time I'm able to pick a place that has a kitchenette. I can walk, well, especially when I go to Boston, I walk
mhm.
up the street before I even unpack my suitcase. I walk up the street to Whole Foods. I get all my food. Then I go back to the hotel and I unpack my food, which again, I'm set for the week, and my luggage. And I purposely pick a place where I know I can walk, that there's a nice area to walk in. So I deliberately choose my hotel based on the lifestyle I want to have while I'm there.
Yeah, that's really key point for people who travel a lot for work. So you book a hotel that you know is within close proximity to a store, so you don't
Yep.
always have to eat out where you
Right.
don't know what
Right.
ingredients, right, are going
Right.
into the food. You know, even for people who, like, let's say that you have business luncheons and dinners that's just
Hmm.
the way your schedule goes. You can't avoid it.
Right.
Well,
Yep.
why not bring a healthy breakfast with you so you can at least start off the
Right.
day well, and snacks, because I know that when I go to these conferences, I mean, we're not eating until 12 or 1 o'clock, and maybe we eat breakfast, you know, at 7:30 or so in the morning. That's a
Hmm.
really long time to go for me personally without eating. I mean, I
Right.
just don't want to show
Right.
up hangry at lunch. So I'm always bringing in healthy snacks, just
Right.
easy to pack snacks so that I don't, you know, show up at
Right.
lunchtime without
Right.
any
Well,
control.
and that is something I did differently because of you. I had a client where I would do 6 workshops in 2 days, and there wasn't enough
Right.
time between the workshops to really have a full meal. And that was
I
when
love
when
that.
I met you. I grabbed your 31 snacks list, and I would
Hmm.
pack all those snacks so I didn't have to have a full meal. I had a bag of all my food in the back of the room, and I would eat my snacks in between sessions, because what would happen if I didn't do that is at the end of the day, I'm hangry, I'm famished.
Yeah.
Now, you can keep your adrenaline going and be on and keep that going for a while. But the minute you're off, so to speak, then all hell breaks loose. You want cookies and chips and bad food and McDonald's or whatever. So the minute I started making sure I was eating those snacks, then my habits really improved, because that was a unique situation. I'd never done that before, where I didn't have time
Really?
to at least get a snack. No,
Oh,
not
wow.
like
That's
that.
huge.
Because, in an
Wow.
office, when you're used to going to a corporate office every day,
Yeah.
people go, you can go meetings to meetings, right, with no break.
Hmm.
And that's not uncommon, but at least you have a desk and you could,
Hmm.
right, you're used to maybe, oh, I'll bring something. But I was in the
Right.
client's office, so I wasn't used to bringing in food into the client's office. But I started doing that and it works great.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm so glad you did that. You know, one of my clients, he runs 3 day long seminars for a neuromuscular company called Z Health, and you know, he was at a point where he wasn't eating at all, running off of adrenaline, you know, all day long. But then he found that the week he would get back to work, I mean, he really suffered. He was so tired. His energy was so incredibly low. And just by making that simple adjustment of creating a plan, so he was eating between, you know, workshop explanations, or however you want to call it, between presentations, because
Yeah.
he was literally on all day long. I mean, it made all the difference in the world for him. So now he's not only productive in the workshop, but also in the five
Yeah. And
days
I'm,
between.
and I'm glad you brought that up, Kristen, because that was a key point I wanted to make when you were asking about how I see health impacting executive performance.
Right.
Let's say a busy executive is traveling for business. They're crossing, time zones. They're traveling. They're not eating well, not taking care of themselves. Maybe don't have time for exercise. If that's the case, to your point, you get back home or you get back to the office, and now you could either crash and burn, right? Because now
Hmm.
that trip just completely zapped you. And I know a lot of
Yep.
people that get home from a business trip and for a few days they're on the couch.
Yep.
I mean, and I
Totally.
used to do that too. I don't do that anymore, but I used to.
Yep.
So now what suffers? Well, when you're back in the office, your productivity may suffer because you've been on this trip. But also think about it this way, your personal life gets cheated because you gave everything
Totally.
you had to that business, whatever the purpose of the business trip was. But the minute you get home, your family, your friends, everyone's, that part of your
Yeah.
life, you completely robbing that part because now you just crash.
Oh,
So
yeah.
there's a book, I think it's called Power of Full Engagement. When I read
Mhm.
that book years ago, it planted in the seed in my mind of us as a corporate athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Just like an athlete's training for a sporting event,
That's exactly
you
right.
may be training for a presentation, a client visit, a business trip, and you need to be thinking strategically about how you're going to not only sustain your energy, but then when you come back, what kind of recovery time do you need, right? A recovery
Hmm.
period, right?
Yeah,
To give yourself some reentry, right? It's like
that's
stretching
exactly
a
right.
muscle, then you need to give it time to relax, to regain its strength. But
Yeah,
I think that's where I see most people get all excited for the trip or the big event. But now, how are you going to get back to a consistent routine? Do you know what I mean? How are
I
you
do.
re-entering?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely right. And I mean, that book sounds absolutely fantastic because it really does set your mind up for the entire journey, right? I mean,
Hmm.
I always talk about how launching a product or hosting a 3-day event or going, traveling for business, being in the boardroom,
Hmm.
those are all the corporate athletes' Olympic sports, if
Right,
you will.
right, right.
And yeah, those athletes, yeah, they perform at a very high level, but they recover even harder. That's the
Right.
point that that's the part we don't see, but that's the part that needs to happen to keep them
Hmm.
at their peak, right?
Right. Now, the
So,
piece that I don't, isn't as much an issue for me today, but it used to be a big part of my life was international travel. You have the
mhm.
added complexity of time zone changes
Zone.
and jet lag.
Yeah, sure.
And if you know that you need to be at your best, you don't pull an all-nighter, show up at the airport, go to the client's office, and think that you're going to be intelligent, make sense, make a good impression. So if you're
Right.
there for a week or 2 weeks, you put off when you need to be at your best, at your peak performance, you put that off as far as possible. So you're giving yourself time to acclimate. And
Yep.
especially if you have to negotiate a deal, because if you're
Totally.
negotiating and your brain is still in a brain fog because you haven't acclimated yet, you're putting your business at risk by trying to um, perform at an unrealistic level.
Totally. Yeah, no, I so agree with that. I mean, it's the same for me. I always think about that, especially if I'm going
Hmm.
international to speak. It's like if I know I'm going to be on a stage, I am going to get there a good 2 days ahead of time and make sure I am
Hmm.
so well rested,
Yeah.
really take care of myself before I get on that stage. It's
Yeah. Like
essential.
when you went to Australia. So that meant,
Yeah.
because I would go 12, it was a 12-hour difference from Boston to
Hmm.
Singapore and another bit of time difference between, to Tokyo and then to Sydney, right? A little bit
Yep.
more hours tack on. So, if you think about it, it's a day for every hour of time zone. So you know
Hmm.
that the day you show up, you're still, not nearly acclimated, but to give yourself at
Hmm.
least a couple of days. So that's why when we think about operating at peak performance, we've talked about eating well, eating good, healthy food, exercising. For me, nature, fresh air, being
Hmm.
outside is important. But the piece we haven't talked about is sleep.
Hmm.
And nothing will rejuvenate the brain faster than making sure on these trips you're getting good sleep. Because if you're there
Yeah.
to work with a client, the most important thing you can do is go to bed early, get plenty of sleep. I always travel with a sleep mask, melatonin, maybe some type of a natural herbal sleep inducement like Alteril or something, because
Hmm.
that can be the killer. You're on a business trip, you're not in a familiar territory, and you can't sleep. Well, then you show up
Yeah.
at the client's office the next day and you're not going to be at your best. You're not
Yeah,
thinking
it's so
clearly
true.
because, yeah, you haven't slept.
Oh yeah, so true. No, I think that's of the utmost importance. And it's funny, like I'd go as far as to say that, especially if you are exercising on a regular basis at home,
Hmm.
you take
Hmm.
that international trip and you're having a tough time sleeping through the night, I would even skip that morning workout and make sure you sleep so that you can show up at your peak when you get to that client.
Hmm.
Especially if you've been incorporating movement, it's okay to miss a couple days if that's the case, right? Because sleep is that important to your ability to function at a high level.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Now, fortunately, most of my travels, even though I did meet with clients, I would say most of the time I was meeting with my own team. So if they thought I sounded dopey, they gave me a they give me a hall pass. They'd say, "Oh, she's got jet lag." I had the same director I'm thinking of that said, "Donna, you're doing so great." He's the same guy that said to me on a conference call, "Donna, have you been drinking?"
Oh, that is so
lag
funny.
hadn't quite. Because yeah, you got to be careful because you think you sound fantastic, but to the other people, they realize that you're, still out of your mind. You're not making sense.
That's exactly right. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, I think lack of sleep has the same effects as being drunk.
It does.
Under the,
It does.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, it's just so funny. You know what I want to talk about, Donna, especially since you just got back from this amazing ski trip. And, we talked about it briefly before we jumped on the interview. You said something that I just think is so vital for people to understand, which is when you're in your element, when you have that free time, when you are out in an area where you feel inspired, you can replenish your batteries. You're more productive. You're more creative. You're more inspired. Tell us about your experience with that, because I feel like you do such an amazing job with the work-life balance.
Well, thank you. I think today I'm much better. But yeah, so what I was saying, and it's different for all of us. I mean, for some people I know it could be dancing, it could be surfing, it could be, all different sports. But for me, the combination of having a sport you love that you're in nature, it's like you're double dipping because being in nature in and of itself gives you a productivity boost. It helps you manage stress. It helps you manage your productivity, your creativity, your energy. So if you can combine some kind of sport, I used to do a lot of bicycling. I do long, 30 miles at a time. I used to bicycle all the time, like big trips. And so it doesn't matter what it is, just being in nature. Now, once each of us finds that sweet spot of what we really love to do, then how do we work that, if not daily, at least weekly, how do we work that into our routine? Because you get such a boost of creativity, clarity, energy, right? So it could be, on a daily basis, it could simply be you're walking through your neighborhood. On the weekends, maybe you're going for a hike, a bike ride, whatever the nature is that you have access to. For me, because I'm living in Florida right now, as much as I'd love to snowboard year round, because when I'm in the mountains, I am just invigorated.
Yeah.
Mentally, physically, every which way. Now in Florida, there are a lot of people that feel that way about surfing, golf, tennis, fishing. Everybody has their sport.
Right.
So yeah. I don't know if I answered your question.
Well, I think what you're saying is basically understanding, when your batteries need a recharge, or actually just recharging them on a regular basis can be so effective for your creativity and your productivity levels. And as a leader, our ability to have those skill sets is of the utmost importance, right? Because our team is watching us. We have to be the decision makers. We have to be, coming up with the ideas that are going to be changing the trajectory of our companies, inspiring our teams. And we just can't do that if we're always kind of stuck in a rut, stuck in the office, stuck behind a desk, right?
Right. Well, so one of the things I mentioned earlier is each of us making time for the things that are going to rejuvenate us. It's part of managing your priorities and setting a direction. And I always encourage my clients to do a week at a time. Look at the whole week that's coming up, and where in that week are you going to do those things that, both rejuvenate you and help you accomplish your goals. And so I would encourage anyone to have those rejuvenation, whatever those activities are, whether it's daily, every other day, weekly, where are they going to show up in your calendar? Because unless you put them on your calendar, they're not going to happen.
So true.
So, so to your point, then that individual shows up at their best in the office, right?
I love it.
And they set a good example.
Yeah. My God, yeah, exactly. Well, I love that you're such a good example of that for your clients, really walking your walk. Um, Donna, it's been amazing talking to you over the last, half hour about all of this. I really feel you're such a perfect candidate to have on this Fit for Success podcast. And, I've seen your journey in putting in those habits. I've seen you really prioritize your body. And I just love that because you're always traveling for work. You're doing such an amazing job of it. And I'm sure that there are plenty of executives that are going to listen to this email and want to know where they can learn more about you. So tell us, where can our audience get a hold of you?
So the best way would be to connect on LinkedIn, Donna Ceriani, Leadership Success Coach, and just to send me a message to connect, with saying that, you heard me on this interview. That would be the best way. My website is successcompassstrategies.com. And if they're, interested in hearing my podcast, it's the successtalkshow.com, which is connected. In fact, this episode, when we talk about one of the episodes I've got coming up is on stress tolerance. Nice. And so a lot of the tips that you've shared, I'll certainly share this episode with my current clients, because I think this is just so important for everybody to have this as a skill.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being on here, Donna. And thank you all for joining today. If you love this interview and you want to know how to work with Donna or just reach out to her, connect with her on LinkedIn or visit her website, Success Compass Strategies. And for those of you who are looking to feel energized so that you can perform at your highest level and experience optimal health, please visit my assessment website. That's fitforsuccessquiz.com. Again, fitforsuccessquiz.com. Take my 4-minute assessment and you and I can hop on a private call and talk about what your best next move is to achieve optimal health. All right, this is Kristen and Donna signing off. Thank you all so much for joining today, and we will see you next time. Bye.